y'all. So we are incubating eggs, as you might know. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the egg itself from the beginning, right? So first of all, there's only two genes to eggs. There's either the ones that lay the blue egg, and then there's the one that lay the white egg, okay? Genetically, in the colored eggs, if you were to peel back this brown, it's white underneath. So all the brown eggs are from a white genetic egg, okay? All the green blue eggs are from the blue egg, or the aqua egg, this color, okay? So like if you get the olive eggers, they're genetically from the aqua egg, okay? So you get a rainbows of colored eggs. So simply put, there's a lot more to it, but simply put, all eggs start out either white or the aqua blue color, okay? And when you start crossing them and making, your rainbow of eggs, the brown ones belong to the white genetics, and then the olive eggers and the bluish green ones, all those other ones belong to this aqua color, okay? And so if I were to crack this brown one, underneath it on the inside, you would see a white shell. And then the bloom on the egg, okay, which when the chicken is making their egg, the last thing they put over it is called a bloom. The bloom protects the egg from, bacteria and elements, because the egg's porous, but there's a layer of bloom. It's known as like the cuticle of the egg, okay? So the bloom can affect the color of the eggs as well. So if you have a heavily bloomed chicken, I'm incubating with my eggs, so I only have like these three colors to show you, but I have like a lot of different colors of eggs. But there's some that are heavily bloomed, which can affect the color of the egg. I get like purplish color eggs. Let me see. I can get like purple colored eggs because the bloom cover it so much it affects the color and makes it look purplish. But if I were to dunk that purplish egg in, here we go, here, I'm gonna plan on incubating these two. This one's starting to look a little bit purplish because it's heavily bloomed. Now if I were to duck this in water, you could see that it affects the color of the egg. It's actually pretty brown underneath it. More brown underneath it. I don't know if I have to go get water to show you. But yeah, heavily bloomed eggs will affect the color as well. And then I'll have a few that look really, really dark green, and it just has a lot of bloom on it. And let's keep on talking about genetics, okay? So to get more brown eggs, you need a rooster that has the dark chocolate colored. To get an olive egger, right, you'll need a rooster that has more of a darker colored egg to mate with someone with a green egg. Then you'll get an olive egger. Okay, to get more of a brown egg, the one that has brown mates with the white one, and also gets more of a brown egg. There's a lot more there's to it, but basically you have two different color eggs, and the rooster is the one that decides. Of course, it's, you have to proof them. Basically, you have to see what kind of egg they come out of, the rooster. So if the rooster comes out a really dark egg, usually it's gonna be on the darker side. But then if you never see them hatch, then you got to figure out by proofing them, by like seeing what kind of babies are laid, because you can't tell with chicks. You can tell, or hens, you can tell what kind of eggs because they lay them. Anyways, that makes sense. So that's how, like, if you were to try to like start a breeding program to get colored eggs to different rainbows of eggs, your goal is to make a chocolate egg rooster with a green or blue egg hen, and then you'll get more of an olive egger. Now, to get more brown eggs, it would be, the brown eggs have white layers, right? And so, white eggs. So, the brown rooster, you know, made it to a white egg layer is going to create a brown egg. And the darker the egg, the more brown egg layers. Another brown will be even darker. Some have speckles. You know, this one's has speckles on it. I don't know if you could tell. Has speckles on it, little freckles. I love the colors of eggs. Anyways, that's genetically 2 different types of eggs. Okay, then from there, we'll talk about genetics and roosters. Okay, so when you're incubating eggs, you can't tell a rooster, you can't create roosters by temperature. Okay, so like there's some egg laying animals that are controlled by temperature, basically. Like I think it's like turtles and maybe some snakes or lizards. Those are temperature controlled, where you can make like rooster or make females or males based on temperature. But chickens aren't like that. Chickens are genetically dispositioned to be a rooster or a cockerel or a pullet. So your temperature is not going to change your outcome. So the only way you can use temperature to try to help you control the outcome and get more pullets is, they say roosters don't survive lower temperatures. They say. So if you were to lower the temperature of your eggs briefly, like maybe 40 degrees, like for, you know, like a day, and then try to hatch them out, they say that the roosters wouldn't survive. So you'd have a lot more dead eggs because the roosters won't survive lower temperatures and the hens will. So we'll try that this time, because my eggs were outside in the cold for a while, for a few days before I hatched them. I'm hatching them, so we'll see if that theory is true, that you know, because I shouldn't have many roosters then, because they shouldn't be able to you know, survive that low of a temperature, but they say pullets do. So that's the only way you can control, even think about controlling the outcome of having more hens than roosters, is try lowering the temperature of the egg first, basically killing off all the roosters' DNA, and only the pullet DNA or hen DNA would survive. So yeah, but that's it. But yeah, it's genetics, guys. You can't control it any other way. Also with eggs, really fast, you don't have to take them out and incubate them right away. So chickens, you know, don't start creating babies with one egg. They don't lay one egg and sit on one egg. They don't, you know, they wait until, they don't lay 2 eggs and then sit on 2 eggs. They wait until they have a clutch like this, like a clutch of eggs in the nest, and it might take them 3 weeks to get that clutch, you know? Once they get that clutch, then they sit on the eggs, and then they all hatch at the same time, because the egg won't start incubating the day it's laid, you know? The incubation process starts when the chicken sits on it. So if it takes you 3 weeks to collect enough eggs to incubate, you're fine. They're all gonna. My camera ran out. Anyways, So if it takes you a few weeks to collect all your eggs and then you start incubating them, you're fine, because they won't hatch until you start the incubation process. You know, so just like in nature, the eggs will stay and wait for that mother hen to sit on them before they, you know, start all developing at the same time. So don't worry. These right now are 2 weeks old. Okay, this is 1 week and this is another week. We've been eating some, so by the time I start incubating these, they're probably going to be about 3 weeks old, and they're going to be just fine. They're being kept in a cool environment. I'm going to try lowering the temperature. You know, it's pretty cold in my house anyways. Kill off those rooster genes maybe. We'll see. And so you should have more duds in your incubation process, theoretically, if that works. And then hopefully I get more pullets. But anyways, yeah. So don't worry about having to incubate them one at a time. So I saw a person starting their incubator and adding the eggs in because they think they need to go in super fresh, and they don't. So I know how this works. Even though I've never used an incubator, I do incubate eggs using real live ducks or broody hens. So I've had these eggs that are just like this for a week or two, sitting on my counter, and I see a broody duck, and I'm like, oh, here's my opportunity to hatch some chicks. So I'll grab a few of them, put them under her, and they hatch at the same time all the ducks do. So that's how I know. I do it with my broody hens too. So I've done it with ducks and chickens. It's the same. A couple 2-week-old, 3 weeks. I haven't done it past 3 weeks. So who knows? Try it. Maybe it'll work. But I have had like 3-week-old eggs sitting on my, my basket up here. I just put it under the chicken or the duck. And I do it all the time. So, but this year I'm incubating with an incubator, and because I don't have anybody broody in the winter, I always end up doing it in the spring and stuff. But right now I want to start. I have some chickens, some breeds that I had to start hatching, because they died, and the eggs were sitting outside in the elements, and I just had to get them in the incubator right away. So that's why there are some situations where you want to do it right away. Like if you have an egg you really want to hatch, and you don't know how long it's been sitting outside, you got to put it in. So, but yeah, that's if that makes sense to everybody. And then the rooster and the hens, their sex is in their vents. So you can't tell. It's like inside. So here's the vent, and here's inside. This is the rooster, and this is the hen. You can't tell because their organs are internal. Like bunny rabbits, their organs are internal also. So it's difficult to sex chicks because you have to, like, on the first day be professional, and you like squeeze the poop out, and then you can see their what sex they are. But I don't do that. So when you sex chicks, you can do it on the first 2 days. My doggies are in here. The first day you can see the feathers. So the first 1 or 2 days, okay? You can only do it when they're 1 or 2 days and a week. You see their pin feathers. They're little feathers. They have little feathers. And a boy rooster, normally this is how I tell. It's usually pretty accurate depending on the breed. Some breeds can't. But they have 1 row of feather. So 1 row, you see 1 row of feather, that's the boy, usually. Okay? The girl will have a second layer like that. And so I'll show you when I check to see what's rooster and what's cockerel and what's pullet. The pullet will have a little layer and then a layer here. And also it goes like in a V. And then the cockerel will only have that. And that's the first 2 days. And then you can't tell until a week, and then you do it again in a week. And then it's more guaranteed. So if you're going to a feed store, right, and you're trying to find you a cockerel or a pullet, and you see straight runs, you pick them up and then go for the ones with they're usually about a week old at the store, feed store. I mean, sometimes a couple days, but a couple days or a week old, you know. Pick them up, and if their feathers are like that, it's most likely pullet, and if it's not, it's most likely a cockerel. So, but there's some breeds you can't do that to. There's some that just won't work on, but for the most part it does. So, and then when they get older, you'll be able to tell based on their wingspan. So females, the pullets, develop their plumage faster. So if you see the same breed, you got a bunch of the same breed of chicks, and one group has developed their feathers, and then there's a couple that haven't developed their feathers, those usually are going to be your cockerels. So, and then the wing tips will go all the way to the tail feather. Here, let me see if I can show you on this little thingy here. Here's my little, this is a grown rooster here, but let's pretend it's a baby. So, see how the wing goes to the butt? Well, the females will reach the butt, tail feathers. That's not here, and that's there. The little female their wingspan will go all the way to the tail feather, but cockerel won't. It'll be short. It'll be like halfway. It'll be like that. And then their plumage, is not developing as fast. That's how you know as they get older. Then you just listen for the crow after that. But they'll get those saddle feathers, and so that's the gist of eggs. And you can't incubate store-bought eggs. You can't. They're not fertilized. I mean, if you got organic from from nature, from someone you buy, from a farm, yeah, you can incubate those. Some have done it with quail eggs, because those are usually like, fertilized sometimes. So dog. Yeah, I got a delivery. They don't want delivery, people. Yeah, but you can't incubate store-bought eggs. They have to be from a farm, organic, like someone that's, lets their rooster be with their hens, because I have a group of eggs right here that aren't fertile. They're right here, just a couple left. Those ones in this basket are not fertile. There is no rooster living with those chickens. Chickens will always lay eggs no matter what. They lay eggs. So you're not eating a baby from the grocery store. You're not eating an unborn baby or anything. Don't be afraid of that. Even if it's fertilized, you're not eating an unborn baby. It just has the genetics to be incubated. That's it. So how you could tell is when you crack it, that one won't have a dot in the middle, and this one will. And the dot just means it's ready to rock and roll to turn into a baby, but you're still not eating babies. So, yeah. A chicken's going to produce an egg no matter what. And if you keep the rooster away, you'll still get eggs, but they won't be fertilized. And then if you have a rooster with them, their eggs, you still eat fertilized eggs, y'all. And they're the same as unfertilized eggs. There is no difference except for a tiny, tiny, tiny dot in the middle. That just means it has the potential to, if incubated, to turn into a baby. So in this, I keep my eggs because of the bloom that we talked about earlier. The bloom coats it, keeps it protected. You don't have to put them in the refrigerator. That's why you don't wash you don't wash your eggs, okay? You wash that bloom right off. You don't want to do that. It keeps them safe. Look at this, has a little bit of mud on it. That's not poop. Chickens, it's muddy outside. They get mud and sometimes poop on it, but mainly these are muddy. These are muddy eggs because it's muddy outside. But they're protected. I don't need to worry about washing them. They call it seasoning, a little bit of seasoning. Anyways, the bloom is keeping these eggs safe and sound. They can stay on my counter. You don't refrigerate them unless it's like 100 degrees in your house. Like in the summertime, I never used to, because I had a lot more, I didn't have roosters for a little bit. Like I decided not to, years ago. I kept them on the counter all the time, all summer, and that was fine. But then because they're fertilized, in the heat of the summer, I don't have air conditioning. My house isn't cool enough. It's like 80 degrees, and then they start developing. So for 2 months out of the year, I do put them in the refrigerator just to keep them from developing. But for the most part, they stay right out here on the counter. And if I did have air conditioning, I would not be putting them in the fridge. So, but if you wash these, you have to refrigerate them. You're taking the protective bloom off. Now, so in the old days, they didn't have refrigerators. That's how everyone did it, and how most European countries do it. They don't refrigerate their eggs. So they stay pretty much room temperature out here, and they're all good. And anything else about eggs that you might want to know? That's it. So some people don't like eating colored eggs. There is no difference. Like I said, genetically, the brown ones are all from a white, and the any other like rainbow color are all from the green blue. I don't know what to call it, aqua. So and then I have this nice little tan one. This is a good one. This one's heavily bloomed. This one's a heavily bloomed one. If I put this in water, it would be more white. So yeah, and if you chickens that are, I don't know if they have a DNA specifically for heavily bloomed, but if you breed more heavily bloomed chicks from heavily bloomed eggs, those ones will lay more heavily bloomed eggs. They all get a bloom on it, but some just have more of a heavy coat than others. So yeah, this one I want more heavily bloomed because I think that maybe they have just more of a protection on it to store during the winter time. You also could put mineral oil on it to help with that. Some people mineral oil their eggs, so they'll last all winter, because your chickens stop laying eggs in the winter because they need sun. They need a certain amount of light to lay eggs. So, I mean, I still get eggs here and there in the winter time. But if they're older, they're going to stop. But because I'm constantly having new chicks all the time, new chicks, new pullets will lay even in the winter. So by the time this one's hatch and it becomes winter next year, they're still going to be laying more so than the older ones. But that's why I have ducks, because ducks lay eggs in the winter mainly. I have a lot of eggs in the winter from ducks. So I really don't have short supply. But if you did, and you just had your older eggs, you could help preserve them longer, along with the bloom. Put mineral oil on it. That should help keep them on the counter longer. And then you can, I did a video, water glass it's called, but you put it in a solution, and then it's in a water solution, and they're supposed to keep 2. I don't like doing that as often really, because like I said, I get eggs, so you can dehydrate them, whatever. But yeah, so let's get to this. That's all about eggs that I know. I probably think of something else. Oh, chickens, really fast. Chickens, okay, I'm not done. So the coops you get in those coops for sale, They're expensive, and they say they'll fit like 10, but they only fit like 4 birds, okay? So if it's like tents, when you buy a tent to go camping, they say, oh, this tent fits 7 people. In actuality, only fits 2. Well, store-bought coops are the same way. So if you buy a coop that says like it fits 10, count on it fitting like 4 or 5 the most. So cut it in half. It's better to build your own coop. It's probably cost you less. But if you find a good one that fits like 30, then you know it'll fit at least 10. But yeah, I make my own coops out of just scrap wood and wire. And a nesting box will fit 5 chickens. So 5 chickens, I have 1 nesting box per 5 pullets. Roosters you don't need to worry about. You just need to have a roost. But they all usually end up, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 8 nesting boxes, and they only lay in 2 out of all of my chickens. So, and ducks just lay their eggs on the ground. And my ducks don't like a house. They don't want a house. They just like to stay in the bushes, just like in nature. And so, yeah, they just huddle together and go under trees and stuff, and or by themselves if they're nesting. Yeah, that's it. Just make sure your coop can have enough nesting boxes and the run big enough. So, and just enough, the roost, like I use old Christmas trees when I make my roost. I just put up old Christmas trees. I have all my Christmas trees I never throw away. I just fed them to my goats. The pine, they loved them. My goats loved my Christmas trees. Anyways, I have all the Christmas trees out in the field, and I just shave it off and make it smooth, and then nail them up, and then they love to sit on those. And they need about this much space per chicken. So just count your roost about, a little over a foot per chicken on that roost. So yeah, if you have a chicken coop in the store and it only has 3 nesting boxes, that's why they're saying it's 3 nesting boxes, but it's small and the run is small. That's not gonna fit. It's because of the run. So if you were to get one that has like 3 nesting boxes, yeah, that will fit 15 because 5 chickens per nesting box, but the run's not going to fit it, and the roosts might not fit it, inside. So if you take that and then add an extra run and more roosts, then you'll be all good. Almost forgot to mention, chickens are cannibals, guys. They eat anything. If you guys want to know how to feed them and stuff, they eat anything. So, chickens eat anything. They're cannibals. They eat themselves. They'll pick at each other and, like, they'll eat, there's a pecking order, right? So, sometimes I had one rooster that they didn't like and wouldn't leave him alone, so it ended up being pecked to death by the girls. And they ate him. So, they'll do that. There's not really much of a special diet. They're like little dinosaurs, They eat anything that an eagle will eat. And so the little dinosaurs eat anything. There's really not much. Don't be giving them moldy corn or something. You'll kill them. But like mold, bad mold. I've given them stuff like with mold on it, but it's like the green mold, right? It's different mold. So anyways, you just gotta watch what you feed them when it comes to mold, but everything else, they're pretty smart. They know like what not to eat, like, so they, not smart, but they have intuition. I haven't come across anything. I feed them anything and everything, any leftovers, scraps, everything, and there's some things they won't touch. That might be their instincts or whatever, but then most of the stuff they eat. And like I said, they're cannibals. They'll eat each other. So and then you could do, like, some people do, like, to feed them black fly larvae, right? That sounds like a good idea in theory, but in theory, Do you know that dead animals smell horrible? Horrible, horrible. And so you would do is you would make a bucket, drill a bunch of holes in it, and then put a dead carcass in it, and then you'll get your fly larva, and the larva falls down, and you feed the chickens, but that's just stinky. I'd rather feed the chickens the dead carcass, and it won't be stinky. So, yeah. All right, well, now let's get to these eggs.